Today, I had the great privilege and fun to speak with Omar Kazi, or as most of you know him better, Whole Mars Catalog on Twitter and YouTube. We talked about a lot of things, including the lawsuit that he and Elon Musk got filed against them by Aaron Greenspan, Dan O'Dowd and the Dawn Project, Ashok Eluswamy's recent talk on collision avoidance, and much, much more. Let's take a look. Hey y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All. I'm super happy to have with me today Omar, or as most of you guys know him as Whole Mars on Twitter and on Twitter Spaces, and gosh, I don't know. You're a fairly big deal in those areas, so I feel very privileged that I have you with me today. We are going to talk about the Dan O'Dowd Dawn Project fiasco that's going on. So what I'm going to do is just give a super brief introduction of that. And if you're interested in more, I did a whole video, so I'll just leave a link actually at the top up here. Anyway, I'll leave a link to that. You can go and you can watch the whole sordid details. But the short story is that Dan has a competing software company, and you did a really good takedown video, actually, and I'll make sure I link that as well. But it's been it's in danger of being usurped by Tesla's full self-driving autopilot software. So clearly the guy is very threatened, and he has come up with some very what should we say? Not necessarily true experiments and put them on national television. And it's become kind of a big thing. And so you and several other people have made videos in, showing how this is not actually the case, and that the car doesn't hit children and things. And I think where things really became national news was when people, and I think you might have been the first one, it wasn't your kid, but putting an actual child in front of the car and testing it out. And that seemed to just make CNN and CNBC and other stations just completely blow up. So anyway, that's the context for this story. Oh, and by the way, for you, I wore this today. I'm on an ego trip. I thought you'd appreciate that one. Right? Okay.
Yeah, that's good. I love that.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to, just send me your address and I'll send you one of the t-shirts. But
yeah, that'd be cool.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, before we start that, you also have a really interesting history. You actually have Elon Musk's ear, which is a very unusual thing in the world. Not that many people do. And so I thought if you told us a little of the giant saga that went into this, that would be great as a little starting out point. And then we'll start talking about the whole Dan O'Dowd thing. So yeah, take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, great to be here. I love your channel, love your videos. So cool. I think everybody should be subscribed. If you're not yet, you're watching this. Great videos on, a lot of different subjects, including Tesla and FSD. And, as for me, I mean, it's kind of funny to hear you and other people say that, you're happy to have me or something. I mean, this is all kind of fairly new to me. I've just been a software developer for most of my life, and not really doing anything to attract all too much attention until really I got a Model 3 in 2018. And this whole kind of shit show unfolded that ended up with me meeting Elon and getting into a lawsuit where someone's suing me and him and Tesla, and all this other crazy stuff, and becoming one of the first people to have the full self-driving beta. I think I was one of the first 200 people in the world outside of Tesla to have a privately owned self-driving car, or running FSD beta.
Right. And you have 10.69 now too, right? 10.69.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the lucky few. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think everyone's going to like it. It's smoother, it's nicer. Even my friend who's fairly critical of the beta said, you know what, this is actually a lot smoother so far. I like this a lot. So I think people are going to be happy with it. There's, a few rough edges, but generally it's much more stable than the first builds usually are. So I think by the point 1, the point 2, people are going to be raving about this one.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. And certainly not only should you be subscribed to my channel, but you should be subscribed to yours as well. And also follow Omar on Twitter, because you are quite fun on Twitter. So tell me more. I don't know all the details of this whole lawsuit that ensued about, I mean, was it like Elon's old car. I don't know. I just don't know the details of that, how that all went down. As much as you can tell, you may be under NDA for some of it. I don't know.
No, I'm not under NDA or anything like that. So basically what happened is I got a Model 3 in 2018. And I mean, I was just blown away when I got it. It came to me at kind of a difficult time in my life. And the car just brought me so much joy. It was so great and just made me so excited for the future. And I just love driving it every day. So I think a lot of people who got their Model 3s when they started production in 2018 felt that way about the car. And in autopilot, in particular, when I got it, it didn't even have auto lane change on city streets. It was just one lane driving. And I had enhanced autopilot. And even still, it was just one lane driving. And since then, it's just gotten more and more features in the 4 years since then. Auto lane change, reacting to traffic lights, handling highway ramps, changing lanes automatically on the highway to get to your destination, to the point where now, for the last almost 2 years, I've had the FSD beta software where you can drop any point in the United States or even in Canada, and you can just have it try and drive there. And of course, it won't get you there perfectly every time, but it's getting better and better and doing more drives without any takeover. So, I was just amazed at the product Tesla delivered with the Model 3. I said, this is going to change the world. And so I started tweeting about it, and that's when I ran into Tesla Q, who were really a bunch of short sellers on Twitter. And they were engaged in what's called a short and distort campaign, which is a type of securities fraud, really, where you put out false, misleading, negative information on a stock while taking a short position, a position where you make money if the stock goes down. And so I started kind of looking into some of these short sellers, like, where is all this negative information coming from? Because it really doesn't match what I'm seeing from the product. I'm really seeing a phenomenal product. So where exactly is this negativity coming from? And I started to investigate it and tweet about it kind of anonymously as Steve Jobs ghost.
Because I do remember that now. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because they were all posting under these anonymous screen names, posting this negative information about Tesla, Mark Twain, or Elon's mom, or these kinds of usernames that were anonymous so that they could hide their identity. And so I was really just kind of curious, where is this information coming from? So I started looking into some of the accounts that were posting this Tesla Q information. And one of them was a guy named Aaron Greenspan, who I didn't know it at the time, but this guy's got more than a few screws loose. He's just completely nuts. And when I started to Google his account, and he was posting under kind of a pseudonym, and saw who was behind it, I noticed that Aaron was convinced that he had invented Facebook and that Mark Zuckerberg had stolen the idea for Facebook from him. Okay.
Not the, what were the twins, whatever their names were. So not them, but him. Yeah. Okay.
Not the other people who convinced Mark. This was a different guy. Right. Okay. And as a matter of fact, he actually sued the makers of the movie The Social Network for more than 3 years, harassed and threatened the guy's wife for not putting him in the movie.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah. This guy's a real nut job.
And he was the one who eventually went after you, right? He decided to sue you. And that was a really big deal, right? I mean, it was actually like your legal fees and stuff were not a joke. It was significant.
Yeah. So what Aaron will do is, he's involved in really threatening and suppressing people who are saying things that he doesn't like. So in the case of the Social Network movie, he was very offended by the story of Facebook because he was left out of it. Because the reality is he had nothing to do with Facebook, nothing at all. This guy's a complete loser. He is really according to his autobiography, he's a virgin. He's never had sex. He said that I could never be with a woman because, you know, I'm just too anxious or something. And so, you know, really, I think he has a lot of pent up anger from that. But basically, he really was upset that he wasn't in the Facebook movie. And what he'll do is he'll just write these legal documents himself. He'll type it all up and not get a lawyer, and then basically just file thousands and thousands of pages of documents with the court to essentially blackmail and extort his victim. So he'll basically come and he'll say, "Look, you can pay me, say, this amount, tens of thousands of dollars, you know, mid five figures, and I'll drop the suit right now. Or you can try and fight me, and you can pay 4 to 5 times as much, you know, trying to fight me." Right. And I'll just go on and on and on. So basically what happened is that, you know, I posted a tweet and I said, "Hey, look at this guy who's one of these Tesla Q guys, Aaron Greenspan. He thinks he invented Facebook." So these are the kinds of idiots who are betting against Tesla. They think they invented Facebook. Right. And so then I get a message from Aaron Greenspan, a direct message. And he says, "You need to take this tweet down right now. You cannot insult me like this." And I said, "Well, no, I'm not going to take it down." And he said, "No, you got to take this down right now. Here's what you need to take down." He sent me the link. And so I clicked on the link, not knowing that this guy was a lunatic. And he said, "Thanks. Now I've got your IP address. And if you don't delete it in the next few hours, you know, I'm going to make you regret it. I'm going to make your life pain." And it was actually my birthday at the time, my 25th birthday, on the day he did it. But so I refused to delete it. And so in retaliation, he doxed me. He said, "This is Omar Kazi," because I had searched on his website when I was researching who he is and what he does. He posts these like court documents online to try and basically help his short selling bets and tell his story about how he created Facebook, right? Because he got upset that nobody could see his lawsuit against Facebook and stuff. So he wanted to post all these documents to kind of tell his story and, you know, make it look like it's official. But really, he's putting documents that support his short narrative and making them, you know, free to everybody. So, you know, then he doxed me, said, "Okay, here's where he works." He started stalking me, posting like pictures of my car and my license plate. And, you know, then basically just harassing me, and it just kept escalating further and further until one day he said, I got asked to do an interview for Bloomberg Business Week on autopilot. And so this journalist came, and what he found out about it, so he emailed, you know, all of the Bloomberg, CNBC, all the journalists, and he said, basically accused me of harboring child pornography. Jeez. And he said that this guy is actually being paid by Elon. He's not a real Tesla customer. He's been paid. He's a paid marketing firm, and he's just pretending to be a Tesla customer. And Elon's actually paying him. And so, you know, the journalist said,
"It's good to know you're not real, by the way. It's a really good fake. It's an excellent deep fake." There you go.
So the journalist who was interviewing me, he showed me the email and he said, "Hey, I just got this crazy email about you from this guy, Aaron Greenspan." And so then I posted it online, and Aaron said, "I knew it. See, this proves that Elon's paying him because Elon sent him the email." And the Bloomberg people were like, "Hey, can you just not really, you know, tell him that we sent it?" So I didn't say anything. And he goes, "I knew it. My conspiracy theory was right." So he keeps pushing this conspiracy theory. He's like calling the police, doing all this stuff. And then on the day when the story actually went out, he emailed me and Elon, and he said, "I'm going to sue you guys unless you confess right now to the world that that Elon is secretly paying you."
Wow.
And
so that
Elon,
was the part I was missing about how you guys were connected with this whole
yeah.
thing. Wow.
That's how Elon first started to like know who I was with the whole Bloomberg story. I actually emailed him ahead of the Bloomberg story, and I was like, "Hey, I'm doing this story." That was the first time I'd ever emailed him. And then afterwards, when the story was published, Aaron just lost his shit. I think he was worried about maybe what I might tell the journalists about him and how he was harassing me and everything, because it was really borderline criminal. You know, this stuff isn't legal in the United States. There's laws against cyber stalking and just, obsessing over somebody for years who you've never even met in real life, never even seen. It's just truly insane. So, so he emailed Elon saying, "I'm going to sue you unless you confess to everyone right now that you're really paying Omar and he's not a real Tesla customer." And Elon emailed him back and said, "Does the psych ward know you have a cell phone?"
If that was on Twitter, that would have been one of the most liked tweets ever. So
I did post it on Twitter at the time, and I think a lot of people enjoyed it. But yeah, so basically, what happened was, he kind of just then the next day went to the police department, and he filed a police report against me, again accusing me of having child pornography, which obviously I didn't. And, all of his charges were eventually years later dismissed by the court as having no substance.
But in the meantime, what a nightmare.
Yeah. So then I started kind of looking more into this guy, who he was, and I found out that he had been fraudulently using a charity that he had started in high school to apply to college for his short selling. And essentially in the United States, when you have a 501c3 charity and you get tax exempt status, you're exempt from paying taxes on the condition that what you're doing is for the public good, right? Now, what this charity was doing was posting my private information, doxing me, threatening me. He started rumors that I was a convicted felon, which are not true at all. And, just generally I've never seen anything like this. And, he's done this to so many people. He's had 64 different lawsuits. But then, then I kind of started talking about, hey, this guy's breaking the law. He's using his charity and he's buying documents, buying court documents, using the charitable funds for something that he's calling the public good of posting these documents, but he's really focusing on these companies that he's having short selling bets on. And we know that he's lost, at the time he started the lawsuit 2 years ago, at least $60,000 shorting Tesla.
Wow.
And, he's probably lost a lot more since then. So then I started kind of talking about how he's breaking the law. He's threatening people. He's threatening me. And that's when he filed the lawsuit against me and Elon. And so it's been more than 2 years now. We've spent around $200,000 defending it. Luckily, people on the internet basically saved my life. They donated more than $120,000.
Wow.
If it weren't for them, he would have bankrupted me basically. And so basically just making it impossible to tell the truth about what he was doing, all of this fake negative information about Tesla that's going out, all of his harassment of people. And I just said, I can't do that. I can't stay silent about this and pay you tens of thousands of dollars, even if I have to pay $200,000. That's what I have to do because, these people are trying to stop technology that's really important: electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles.
And I can see why Elon got behind you on that too, because he definitely also has a sense of justice where it's like, no, I don't care how much it costs. The truth needs to come out. So and actually that's like kind of the perfect segue because I think Dan O'Dowd, oh gosh, hypothetically, I'm just like thinking like, oh gosh, YouTube's going to take down my video or something. But you know, let's say hypothetically, Dan O'Dowd could potentially be a person like Alan Greenspan in terms of just being a little bit obsessive and willing to bend the truth in order to get what he wants. In his case, it's a little bit different. So, but I mean, he's trying to get full self-driving essentially made illegal so that his company can selling their software, hypothetically, allegedly, whatever. So anyway, I do not want to spend the next several years spending hundreds of thousands of dollars defending myself. Anyway,
no, I don't think Dan is like that. I don't think that Dan O'Dowd is as low of a person as Aaron Greenspan. I mean, he's kind of very like he truly has no life. Right, that's right. But no, Dan is just, you know, he's the CEO of a competing company, and this isn't the first time he's run a smear campaign against a competing product.
Interesting.
The last time being Linux.
Oh, really? Wow. That's heavy duty to go against an open source piece of software. It's like, okay.
Well, you know, so Dan makes a set of compilers and an operating system that's a real-time operating system called Integrity. And they really focus on selling their software to embedded devices. Like, you know, your kind of Raspberry Pi type controllers, the kind of, you know, chips you might see a lot of in the car, these small, low-powered embedded computers. He really sells his software for those devices. And so naturally, when Linux came onto the scene, you know, a great free open source OS, it got a lot of traction in embedded. Like, you know, you get a Raspberry Pi today, it's going to be running Linux, not Greenhill software. And even a lot of people in the military and, you know, defense contractors were really looking at Linux and its potential. And so he basically started a smear campaign of the same kind, saying, hey, we don't know what's in Linux. It's a national security concern. There are Russian and Chinese people working on Linux.
Right.
You know? That's what he said. And he said, we can't be using this in our national security. We need to be using our crappy Greenhill software, which is way inferior and not supported by anybody, right? Who's going to discover a bug in Greenhill software? It's going to be left open to exploit. Whereas Linux it's battle tested. It's running the whole internet. So he smear campaigned Linux for a while before eventually kind of folding and actually adopting Linux into their products. And now they'll actually virtualize Linux on top of their operating system, which is probably why some of these legacy auto cars are so slow when you try and use the UI, because it's all virtualized for security.
All right, so let's look at, like, Dan O'Dowd started the Dawn Project. As far as I know, the first time I heard of it was that New York Times ad, right? Where he did the thing that said, don't let your family be a crash test dummies or something like that. And that was, gosh, I don't remember exactly when. Oh, was that this year? So it was only January of this year. Wow. It seems like so much longer ago. But anyway, and then he ran for senator on the one issue ticket of just trying to get full self-driving made illegal. And then that didn't work. So now he's releasing videos. And like I said, I did a whole video on it. You did really, really great takedown. I did a little bit different one where I examined the video itself, and I was like, what the hell is he releasing like Bigfoot footage? You know, it's crazy. Nobody releases 540
I know, right?
Grainy JPEG artifacts everywhere. I mean, it's so bad.
You couldn't see anything.
No.
And you look at the camera, they got like a professional camera in the backseat, but yet they can't capture more than I can capture with my GoPro. It's a little bit strange.
Yeah, it's like literally I've got a phone here that'll capture in 4K, and somehow they can't manage with modern technology and all this high production value to release something that looks better than the Bigfoot videos from the 60s. So anyway, yeah, so I think there's a lot of that. And then so you did a takedown, and of course a lot of people have done videos of like either fake children or real children and show the car stops. And you know, I drive the FSD. I've got 10.12.2 right now. And, you know, I drive through my neighborhood every afternoon when I come home, and it avoids people and dogs and all that stuff. You know, it's not in danger of hitting them. So then I think Dan actually responded to you personally, right? On Twitter. at one point.
He does that sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. So he responded to you personally, and I think he's released a new video. I haven't seen it because I really don't want to give the clicks, but I think there's another one where he took away the cones and said that he did a real test because people were
I
complaining.
think that was someone else who did it. Yeah.
Oh, it was somebody else. Okay.
But it might have been related to him. It was in Santa Barbara, so probably someone who knows him.
Right. Oh, yeah, that would make sense. So anyway, by all accounts, from what I can see, from what you've talked about and what other people have seen, it sure looks like the person was pressing the accelerator with the cones up. There was no way the car could swerve, and it was pretty much what's it going to do at that point, right? It's like the human being is overriding the full self-driving. So yeah, so there's not a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ad was a little bit misleading, to say the least. You know, there's the surface level, and then there's kind of the deeper issues with the whole kind of thesis of the ad. On the surface level, if you look at the thing closely, you can see that the software, number one, recognized the dummy as a kid. It recognized it a little bit late, but that's really because the dummy wasn't very good. I had the same issue when I tried to recreate the test, where it's actually a little bit difficult to get the dummy to recognize as a kid. We had to fully dress it in real kids' clothes, shirt, pants, before it started reliably getting picked up as a pedestrian. So I think that's part of the issue with some of these tests is like, make sure your kid is a convincing kid, because something that looks like a flying bag of trash is not going to look like a kid to the system, and it's not going to be treated like a kid. But you can see in Dan's that it actually recognizes a kid, and once it did, it hit the brakes, and it actually tried to go around the kid, but it couldn't because of the cones.
Yeah, you can see the little blue path planner was like trying to go around it. Yeah.
Right. And, you know, in my recreations of the test, I found the same thing. If there's room to go around, it will go around rather than hitting it. For the mannequin. But you know, the other issue really is like they accelerated, and then they turned on FSD. So they accelerated to the point where FSD wouldn't be able to stop. It actually did hit the brakes, but the stopping distance just wasn't enough. So if they had started from zero, like I did, then it wouldn't have even accelerated at all. But they really took it to the point of no return, then turned it on. That's kind of the surface level issues. But really, the deeper fundamental problem with the ad is, look, nobody's claiming that FSD is going to be 100% perfect 100% of the time. This is a driver assistance system that's designed to be used under human supervision. It's got a cabin camera and steering wheel alerts to make sure the driver pays attention. And under those conditions, even if the software fails, the human will be able to avoid any collision that they would have avoided driving manually. Now, in fact, the software is actually incredibly good at detecting pedestrians, old pedestrians, even kids, as you can easily demonstrate safely. You know, the idea that it's impossible to demonstrate safely that it recognizes kids is ridiculous. You know, you don't even have to turn it on. You can just see the kids standing there. I mean, I've released tons of videos where kids just walk by or bike by, or even walk or bike in front of the car unexpectedly. I've had a toddler stumble in front of the car on Lombard Street, the crooked street in San Francisco. And the car recognizes all of it. So it's very, very
I think
good.
One of the ones that you did just a day or two ago, like you just start out the full self-driving and a kid just like wheels right out, like a little kid just and his mom is there and doesn't even say anything. I was like, what are you doing? But anyway, the car was like, no problem. So let me ask this. I think the brouhaha that seems to make everybody on the mainstream media freaking out is the fact that they're like, oh, they're testing with real live children. And of course, NHTSA got involved and said, don't test with real live children. So, you know, what do you have to say about that? Is it acceptable? Is it not? I like the idea of just visualizing. You can see that it sees it, right? You don't have to turn on full self-driving just to see the fact that there's a kid there. You can look at it and see that.
Yeah, so I think all the controversy has been kind of amusing to me. It's a little bit silly and misinformed, but it kind of played to our advantage, because the fact is the guy we're trying to refute, he's spending millions of dollars to run this on TV.
Right.
Now, I personally don't have millions of dollars to spend running ads on Fox and CNBC and everything to get them to show a misleading video. But what I can do is maybe create a commotion that makes people see the video and can kind of get the truth out there, right? So I kind of worded the original tweet in kind of like a funny way to kind of provoke people a little bit, where I said, hey, anybody got a kid I can try and run over?
Right.
And, you know, I think, first of all, like, what's important to understand here is nobody wants to run over any kids, okay? Tesla doesn't want to run over any kids. No driver wants to run over any kids. Nobody, unless they're very mentally ill, wants to run over any children. So kind of this outrage that, oh my God, they're trying to run over kids is, you know, everybody's on the same page here. This technology is designed to prevent kids from getting run over. Okay, let's be clear. This technology is being developed to prevent kids from getting hit by cars. If a driver is distracted, if they're looking the other way, if for whatever reason they make a mistake that they were going to hit a kid, the software can intervene and stop that kid from getting hit. If you have a kid or know a kid or even love anybody on this planet, adult or old or young or whatever, you should be for this software because it could prevent somebody you love from having their life taken from them just completely for no reason, right? And so this is really the important thing, I think, to emphasize here. Now, in terms of testing on real children, I think it was funny to kind of see the controversy about this, because the dirty little secret is the software has been testing on real children for years. Because every day you drive outside, I'm here in San Francisco, there's a ton of people walking around. Sometimes people are walking with their kids. Sometimes people are biking with their kids. Sometimes there are kids just walking around by themselves. They're skateboarding. I've seen FSD Beta do a lot of crazy stuff over the last 2 years. Any problem you can think of. I've never seen it try and hit a kid. Never. So, which is not to say that it never can hit a kid. I'm always watching. And if it tried to hit a kid, I would take over right away. But from real world experience, I mean, I'm one of the first 200 people to have this software in the whole world. Okay. I've been using it for 22 months now. I consider myself an expert in this software, in what it does and doesn't do. And I came into this with a 99.99% certainty that this software will recognize this kid and it will control properly for it, or even a mannequin or an adult. So I really came into it that way, and not definitely not wanting to harm anybody, but actually saying, hey, if in the real world, like you saw that video of the girl riding her bike in front of the car, I didn't tell her to ride her bike in front of the car. I didn't say, hey, can you guys run in front of my car? I think it would make a great YouTube video. That little girl just happened to want to do that, as little kids sometimes do. And as you can see, the car handled it perfectly. It was cautious. It noticed them coming. And when she went into the road, it made a full stop. Once she left the road, it continued. I mean, this is a life-saving technology. If somebody was looking at their phone, maybe pulling out, it happens, and they didn't see that girl. The car can slam on the brakes and stop you from hitting her. I mean, how could someone be against this technology? And you know, a lot of people said, "Oh, you just want to defend Elon or Tesla so much you're willing to murder a child." And I said, and I'm like, no, you know, Elon is he's the richest guy in the world. Tesla's one of the world's most valuable companies. They're not there, you know, about to die without me putting out a video or something. I wanted to put out the video because someone's out there lying, telling people that a life-saving technology is going to kill kids. And the truth is, it could save a kid's life. It could save your kid's life. It could save somebody who's watching this, somebody they love. And so I think it's really important for that to be part of the public discussion. what the truth is about this software. And if people are running around unexpectedly, and I'm able to either make sure the software handles it properly or stop, then it should be even safer if there's a planned controlled test where we have the consent of the parents, we have the father behind the wheel, we make sure it's very low speed, that there's a huge margin. And, like, for example, in the first test, the correct response of the car was to not move at all, or to move very little. So first,
I think it was stop and you engaged it, and then it just like wouldn't even move. Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't move, exactly. So hardly a dangerous situation for the kid. There was lots of room for them to move. 100% it can be demonstrated safely. Now, the thing I don't want people to do is, hey, let's all go try run over our kids. I think that was kind of NHTSA's point, and really maybe where some of the genuine concern is, like, we shouldn't all be running around trying to run over kids on purpose all the time, because maybe then something could go wrong, right? But I think it was very safe to demonstrate just once, look, it does recognize kids. It does control for them properly, whether it's a mannequin, whether it's an adult who was, I think he 6'7" who we tried, or a kid who, is 5 years old. It'll handle it properly. And at the end of the day, and it's the CNBC then got really upset. Laura, she has been kind of on the Tesla Q train for years. She would work with Aaron Greenspan and publish his stuff and call him a charity. And she even helped kind of spread some of the child porn accusations that were, completely proven false. So, she's just really on the Tesla Q side. And so, she called YouTube and she said, hey, you got to take this video down. It's endangering children. So, we appealed. I think it's a little funny to us that if a kid rides their bike in front of the car unexpectedly, that's okay for YouTube, apparently. I mean, maybe not. Maybe that's not okay either. Maybe I need to be like scanning my videos for all these kids, So I think that's okay. But then if we know that the kid is going to come out and we plan the test carefully, then, that's dangerous. So, I mean, I disagree with them that it's dangerous, but at the end of the day, it's their platform. They don't want the video on. They don't have to have the video on. We can still share it on Twitter, share it on our own servers. And I think, Streisand effect, a lot of people are going to watch the video, and pretty much nobody who watched the video said it was unsafe. It was really only the people using their imagination who said, who imagined me charging into a kid at full speed or something. And, the softwares, like, they really get sucked into these ads that think, oh my God, it would really run over a kid. When the truth is, no, it does not run over kids in actuality.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, unfortunately, it's true for all of us, but we get that headline disease where it's like we don't actually read the article or watch the video. We just read the title of the thumbnail. It's like, oh my God, it runs into children, and then you're like, you never do it. And then you go talk to your friends, and the game of telephone, it's like Tesla's killed 1,000 children now, or something like, something crazy. So it's just, please, people, it's like, just do some thinking. If you read something in a headline, at least read the first couple paragraphs of the article, watch part of the video. It behooves you to pay attention to this stuff, because there's an awful lot of, even if a lot of times the articles themselves are pretty reasonable, but whoever does the headline for it will make it just sound crazy, right? So you just read the title of the article and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you read the article and you're like, it doesn't really say that. So it's just good for people to take a breath once in a while. If it sounds too outrageous, then maybe check it out and be careful about that. And of course, the fact that Dan O'Dowd is constantly saying there is no conflict of interests is that's the part that I think is the slimiest. It's like, fine, if you want to do a smear campaign and you want to admit that they're competing and eating your lunch, then okay, fine. But don't then go like, oh, no, there's no conflict of interest. This is all for the public good. That's kind of some BS right there. So, I don't know. Anyway,
it's crazy.
I think it's kind of weird. Coincidentally, I have a 15-year-old who just got his learner's permit. And so I now have the experience of full self-driving beta and an actual human that is learning to drive at the same time. And
which one is scarier?
Well, the human being is at this point. I would have said, now I originally got like, I think 10.3. So it was like a year after you got the software. So, you know, it had improved a lot, but probably, I think it was last October when I got it. That version of the software was about like my 15-year-old. You know, it was a little scary, and you're like, oh, what is it going to do at any particular second? But the good end of things was, at least for the software, I could like always like yank the steering wheel and take over. With him, it's like, please stop, please, you know. It's the craziest thing. Since he started, he's like, this has been like 5 days that he's been like driving. He's had a person walk out into the street right in front of him on a major road. He had a car pull into his lane and start driving straight at him. So, and that's what I told him. I was like, you know, everything is fine when you're driving until suddenly it's not. And you always have to be ready for the when it's not, because, you know, it's scary. And I feel very confident with Tesla's autopilot with full self-driving beta that it's really good about that stuff. Sometimes it doesn't do the best turns. It's a little jerky, and sometimes it doesn't get into the lane early enough. And those are like annoyances. But in terms of safety, that second by second thing of like, is it going to hit somebody, or is it going to like swerve out into traffic? I never have any worries about that. And we just got back. We drove all the way to Texas to like Boca Chica and Austin, and I met you in Austin, so it was nice seeing you in person.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, but anyway, so we road tripped that, and it turned out, I think it was 3,300 miles total when we did it, and the whole thing was on autopilot, right? Except for maybe driving around the city. But like, man, it's so much safer than me as a human being. After I've been driving for 8 or 10 hours of driving, and you do like the LA to San Francisco thing a lot.
Yeah.
You know, you get loopy after a while, and the car is still like on it. You know, it never loses focus. It's like right on it. So I guarantee you, if you drive for 5 straight hours, the FSD is better than you are at that point, because your brain is just addled. You can't be that concentrated for that long. So it is. It's a huge safety thing.
There's so many benefits today. Yeah. Like, I mean, just attention, right? The fact that it can focus for hours and hours, that it doesn't get tired. I mean, it's far from perfect, but it's so useful. I don't think people realize that hundreds of times a day, collisions are being prevented by the software running in the background, even when people are driving manually. You just saw Tesla's head of autopilot software, Ashok, release a video from a few months ago, and he said 40 crashes a day due to pedal misapplication, that is, people hitting the accelerator instead of the brake, are prevented. So someone hits the accelerator, they're about to mow down a crowd of people. Software stops them. Someone hits the accelerator, they're about to accelerate into a lake because they thought they were in reverse. Software stops them, prevents them from driving their car into a lake. This is happening hundreds of times every day. By the end of a week from now, you'll have 700 to 1,000 people who would have gotten hit by cars if the software hadn't prevented them. So it's far from perfect. There's a lot of stuff to complain about. There's a lot of room to go to make it better. But man, we're past the time to start getting this technology into every car.
And by the way, I did I don't know if you saw that, but I did a video about Ashok's talk, and it is mind-blowing, because that stuff already exists. And there was that one example where you could see the person was standing in front of the car, and the person stepped on the accelerator, and they would have crushed that person's legs between the two cars. Terrible injury. And the car stopped. And, you know, that's a really, that's someone's quality of life is way better today because of the fact that thing did not run into.
It changed the course of that guy's life.
And that person probably,
if it didn't happen, they would have, you know, maybe not been able to walk ever again. And this is happening over 100 times a day. Nobody realized there's no news story. Man didn't get run over because of FSD. It's not in the news.
It just doesn't sell copy. That's the problem. You know, it's like nobody cares about man didn't get run over. It's like, okay, whatever. But the other thing, so I don't know if you watched later in the video, the collision avoidance stuff that he talks about, but basically,
oh my God.
I think it might be in 10.69 now, but essentially, it sounds like every single Tesla, no matter whether you get full self-driving or not, will have a thing where if you just I'm not suggesting this, please don't do this. And they did this in simulation just to show how it worked, not in real life. So, but if you just slam on the accelerator and close your eyes and just go like, which imagine somebody has a heart attack or something or a stroke while they're driving. I mean,
right.
Sort of horrible scenario. The car will literally, it's not full self-driving. It's not navigating. It's avoiding everything. And I would imagine that eventually they'll build a, come to a complete stop sort of thing or something like that where it'll stop. But that's actually huge. Those just gigantic. This will save so many people's lives, just that by itself. And that's not even something where you have to pay extra for it, as far as I understand it. I did ask Ashok. He never responded to me, but I was like, is this going to come standard in every? Because it just seems like safety is so important
it is.
in Tesla. So it is going to come.
He said it at the beginning of the talk. It was the first slide.
Okay. Maybe I missed that. I was watching all the technical details, and I might have missed that. So.
I mean, this is really the beautiful thing about what Tesla's doing. So, they're spending billions of dollars on this. You've seen those massive racks of NVIDIA GPUs, racks and racks and racks of GPUs that they're training on. Right. Obviously, the amount of people who are labeling the images, the amount of network bandwidth to transmit all that data, to store it in an Amazon S3 bucket or something. And then, man, like this whole process, then you got to actually have QA testers, ADAS testers, testing the software, validating it, make sure it's okay, dealing with the regulators and all this stuff. Like, it's such a massive cost. I don't think people realize how much money they spend on this. And guess what? Everybody gets it for free. As much as people complain about the price, you buy a Tesla, it's going to have basic autopilot, the best lane keeping assist money can buy in the world, free on your car. It's going to come with all the active safety features for free. If you're driving manually in your Tesla, free base model Tesla, and you start changing lanes to your right and there's a car coming up and it's about to hit you, the car will just move the wheel. And this is on by default. Just move the wheel gently back into the lane to prevent you from getting hit. This is amazing technology that's never existed before. And now they're going to take the FSD beta and they're going to move it in there too. So basic autopilot is going to be replaced with an FSD beta powered version of basic autopilot. So you could call it like super basic autopilot or something. They'll be able to go like around.
Super basic sounds like one of those, people that you're not happy to have call friends.
No, it's not super basic. It's just super autopilot. But so basically, it'll probably be able to go around cars and stuff and have the advanced pedestrian detection, but still just drive in one lane. And you'll get all the active safety features for free. So it's pretty crazy what Ashok said their goal is. He said, we're going to take the FSD beta code. The FSD beta code knows how to not hit anything. So we apply that same protection while you're driving manually. And we already know how to not hit anything. So we're going to apply that when you're driving manually. And if you are about to hit something, we'll apply the brakes or even apply corrective steering to make sure that you don't get in a collision. And this will be running all the time. He said, our goal is to make a car that is literally impossible to crash. That is, that's pretty insane. And he said, in the future, it'll literally be absurd that cars used to crash. People will be like, really? That seems crazy. But
it's sort of like us nowadays going like, cars didn't have seatbelts? What? It's that kind of thing, right? So it'll feel like that. And I think and in the meantime, I know Elon tweeted about this. I'm not positive it's in the cars just yet, but currently or in the very near future, if the car sees a collision as unavoidable, it will automatically start to pre-tension the seatbelts. It will deploy the airbags in the correct. It already does a lot of this stuff, but it's currently, I think, after it starts the collision. So basically, you go from a couple of milliseconds to have to make all these decisions to having a couple of seconds, and the car can take steps to protect the passengers in the car. So,
it's crazy. I mean, a lot of people say that, oh my God, this is so stupid. They're working on full self-driving. The car will never be able to drive itself. What a waste of time and money. But they don't realize that really ADAS is just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
this understanding the car is developing, where the car understands what's happening around it, is really foundational to the platform. And even beyond ADAS, like you talked about the seatbelt pretensioners, where it can actually use the vision system to know a crash is coming, start preparing, tighten the seatbelt to reduce the probability of injury, start preparing the airbags in advance. And, you know, insurance is another example, how they're pricing insurance using the vision system. And the craziest thing they said is that, hey, when we showed people their safety score, they actually started crashing less. And they actually started driving safer just from looking at the score assessed from the vision system. So even if you never use full self-driving, this understanding is so powerful. And it's funny that you mentioned seatbelts, because, you know, when seatbelts and airbags started to be mandated, there was resistance to that too, as crazy as it sounds today. They fought it hard. It's funny to go back and actually look at some of these articles. You know, some of these myths persist to this day. Like people would say, well, you know, if you get in a crash, it's actually better to be thrown out of the car, clear from the crash, rather than being stuck inside the wreck. And well, that turned out to not be true. They said, oh, if the car catches on fire or you go underwater, you're going to be trying to get your seatbelt off. You won't be able to get it off. Well, that turned out to be bullshit. Seatbelts are very easy to get off. And the same thing with airbags. They said, oh my God, this is going to kill kids. And, you know, maybe a few kids actually did die, as a matter of fact, because the early deployments of airbags were not really optimized for them. But they didn't ban it. They continued to iterate. They made it safer for kids. They put seat pressure sensors. And now we take seatbelts and airbags for granted. They've saved thousands of lives.
My older son, not the one that's learning to drive, obviously, but he has a big truck, and somebody pulled across 4 lanes of traffic and turned right in front of him. He was doing like 45 miles an hour, completely legally.
Oh my God.
He hit the person's car. It flipped the car twice and ended up on its roof. And he and the 2 girls that were in the car, totally fine. Like, and that's incredible. Wow. You know, when you think about that, it so happened that they were both driving Toyotas, but so it's an advertisement. But I'm just saying, modern cars, like if that had happened in a car when I was that age, like back in the 80s, somebody probably would have died. I mean, because the fact that you're T-boning another car with a truck is a big object. It doesn't slow down. And if you T-bone somebody, it's just going to crush them. So it's just,
oh my God,
amazing.
A lot to deal with. Hearing that, you know, your kid's in an accident like that.
Oh, it was like, that was actually back in October, right around the time I got full self-driving. I was like, man, I need to get a Tesla for everybody in the family, because it's just, you know, I don't know if it would have happened, but it is possible that the Tesla would have reacted faster than him, that it could have actually braked and at least lessened the severity of the crash. You know, again, it was the people's fault who made that crazy turn in front of traffic, but it's always better not to have a crash than to worry about whose fault it is that you had a crash, right? That's crash. So what is it? No part is the best part. No crash is the best crash. You know, that seems to be.
Kind of no crash is the best crash. I like that.
So geez, I need a t-shirt for that. That would be awesome. But anyway, but so that kind of stuff is just, I think the danger is that we kind of sound like these fanboys, and everyone's like, you just love Tesla, because it's like, no, I actually, you know, if they have problems and whatever, I'll call them out on it, and I'll say, well, that wasn't perfect in the beta or whatever. But this is stuff that nobody else is doing. That's the thing. Everybody else is just going like, oh, it's too hard. And quite honestly, that's a completely reasonable point of view. I actually just did a video this morning that said that Tesla's autopilot team is audacious. Like anybody, you're a software developer. Most software hardware developers, if you said, here's an impossible problem. Actually, here's 100 impossible problems, solve them all. We would just go like, nah, I'll do something else, you know? So these guys are crazy that they really try this.
Oh my God. Can you imagine, as a software developer, someone tells you, okay, here's 8, here's 8 camera feeds. Here's 8 JPEGs essentially, or a stream of JPEGs,
Right.
and I want you to drive the car successfully without killing anybody using these 8 1.2 megapixel images, and that you can actually do that successfully, at least sometimes. It's just insane. It is insanely bold, and I mean, for me, it wasn't really that I loved Tesla, so I had to love autopilot. It was kind of actually the other way around for me. I saw autopilot and I said, oh my God, I need a car that has this. And using it on my own car, I think people who use it have so much of a better understanding of it than people who kind of just read stories about it and maybe let their imagination run wild that it's like really some driverless thing. And the people who've used it have seen what the benefits are firsthand, and they're profound. So, you know, people can call me names, whatever, harass me, try and threaten me, sue me. But, you know, I think we as the people who are actually using this stuff have to let the rest of the world know that, hey, this technology is out there. It could improve your life. It could save someone's life. Know that this is out there and maybe consider getting a car that has something like this.
Yeah. Not just could save someone's life, but has saved someone's life. Definitely, without a doubt, the cars have saved people's lives. And that's really profound. And I also think it's profound that Elon knows that the first time something happens where the car is responsible and someone gets injured, they're going to get sued. And he's like, we'll take the heat. We don't care. And I think that's profound too. That's very bold as well, because, you know, most CEOs, most companies would be like, nah, that's too dangerous. But he's like, nope, this is important enough that we'll suffer the consequences, because even though 10,000 people's lives might have been saved when the first person like dies or gets injured, then nobody cares about all the people who didn't have the accident. Like you said, it doesn't make headlines. But it's still worthwhile. It's just like those early airbags. It's like it's terrible and it's a tragedy, but in the context, it's a very positive thing, and you just keep working to make it better. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's kind of a common point that people make. It's, well, why don't you wait until it's perfect? Shouldn't you just wait until it's perfect and then release it then? And what people don't realize is a lot of people would die under this plan more than they need to. Because where the technology is today is, no, it's not ready to be driverless. It's not to that level of reliability. No one's arguing that. But it is good enough to actually save a lot of people's lives. And it's saving hundreds of people's lives every day. If you were to delay the technology and say, okay, we're not going to release this to anybody, which has actually been the industry's safety plan, is, hey, I got a great plan for safety. Let's not let anybody use it. And if nobody uses it, then nothing can go wrong, right? And Tesla has a different strategy. They say, well, we need to get this to as many cars as possible, not just because there's benefits that it can have today in preventing collisions, but also because it'll help the software improve faster, and it'll help us get to driverless faster in a way that we can't do without large scale testing. And so I think that's really, really important that, you know, and like the Rand Corporation did a study on this, and they actually calculated how many more people would die waiting until, you know, it's finished versus releasing incrementally. And when you do the math and look at it seriously, you realize that waiting until it's finished is actually a policy that creates needless death, whereas people tend to assume otherwise.
I don't, not to belabor the whole seatbelt analogy, but back when seatbelts were released, they were just the lap strap. And so if somebody had said, let's wait until seatbelts are perfect before we release them, they wouldn't even have known, because it was literally the fact that people use them and they're like, oh, we need to fix these and pre-tension them and have the thing across your chest. And, you know, and like you said with airbags, like they deployed incorrectly in the early days sometimes, which is tragic. But no one's ever going to know unless you try it, right? You can't just like make an airbag in the lab and go like, I think it's perfect, but we can't test it until we know it's perfect. It's like you got this chicken and egg problem. So even if autopilot is not perfect, and honestly, I feel like it's the ideal solution because it's collecting data and it's really, really close, but the human driver is still responsible. So that seems like a good, compromise at this point, right? We're still responsible for the car, so that's not a problem. We can take over at any second. We can change the course of the car or something. So, I think that's a very good compromise.
Yeah.
And they can actually make it better. Because again, who's going to know unless you put it out in the real world if it actually works or not? You can do it in the lab all day long.
Oh, yeah. And they say that their data shows that the cars crash less frequently when autopilot's on compared to when the humans are driving. So I think the data kind of speaks for itself.
Right.
Having a human and a computer watching is the sweet spot today. It's better than a human alone or a computer alone.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And especially for, longer road trips and things like that, when the car is fresh all the time is super good. Yeah. I think it was actually like a factor of 10 better than human drivers. I think that's, if I'm remembering correctly, there was a slide in there, 2022 impact or whatever. So 2020
under human supervision, right? It's around 10 times further that it can drive without a collision.
Right. So, I mean, that's profound. That's not like a little tiny bit better. That's like this much better. So, it's huge. All right.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts to end this on? I mean, I think we're sounding like fanboys, but please, people, understand if you haven't driven full self-driving beta, find a friend or an acquaintance who has it and have them drive you around and show you. It's not a party trick. So many people think that we're actually driving the car, which is hysterical. They're like, "Oh, you're like subtly driving it with your left hand." It's like,
they go, you had to touch the wheel.
Yeah, it's like I'm literally doing it because it tells me I have to do that. So, but to actually get in the car and see what it does, and even the fact that it's not perfect yet, is incredibly instructive. So try to find somebody that has it. Go for a ride with them. I think you will find it profound. I actually have a colleague of mine from work who he's just like, no, I don't like Teslas. Their autopilot software is going to kill people. And I'm like, will you please come for a drive with me? I think you will change your mind when it can drive from work to your house without any interventions or feeling dangerous or anything. Yeah. It's pretty profound. So.
Yeah, definitely. And, if anyone's in the Bay Area and San Francisco, I'm happy to give you a ride. I've given a ride to lots of people. People will come from Europe and be like, oh my God, can I see FSD beta? And I love to show them because, just their reactions are so priceless. Just to see their mind blown, especially the people who have Teslas who can see that, oh my God, one day my car will be able to do this. It's just something. And, I'm not somebody who like, if this software was dangerous, or I thought it could hurt somebody, I wouldn't be, out there trying to pretend it's okay to benefit Tesla stock or something like that. I mean, what's good for Tesla is really making it better. And even in this kid test, part of the thinking was really like, if there really is a bug that it can't see kids, this needs to be documented and explored fully so it can be fixed. The solution isn't to ban it. If hypothetically it couldn't see kids, the solution would be to add more training images of kids and label them as pedestrians and retrain the system and ship a new build to all the cars that fixes the problem.
Right.
So that's really what we set out to do. It's not about, trying to hide the fact that it's running over kids. No kids have been run over, so there's just a lot of dishonest people out there. I mean, the magnitude of this change is so massive, you can't even imagine it. It's going to disrupt so many businesses. And automotive is just the tip of the iceberg. What we're going to see with really the robot on September 30th at AI Day is we can use the same software that lets your car move through the world to create like a humanoid that moves through the world and can automate pretty much any task. So we're looking at a pretty profound change here, and there's going to be a lot of people pushing misinformation, trying to say, oh, my software's better and this software's bad. But, there'll always be real people out there using it who've seen it for themselves, I think, who can push back and say, hey, these people are full of shit. And right. I support this. I think it's important. And I think it's really important for the people who know better to do that and to stand up and say, hey, this is bullshit, you guys. I think you guys should know.
Right. And I think we can leave it with that. I think that sounds really good. I, for one, am super excited to see what happens with AI Day 2, because that's going to be potentially incredibly profound. And it definitely is building on the full self-driving software, the whole vision system and the understanding of the world thing in Tesla Bot will be based on, they've told us that. So it'll be based on the full self-driving. So Tesla's got this nice flywheel where they're collecting data and they're utilizing it and they're building better stuff, and that's creating better data. So it's a really, really nice flywheel. So, all right. Anything else to add to the conversation? Otherwise, we can say goodbye to everybody and wish everyone a happy day. So, all righty. Everybody have a great day.
Thanks so much for having me. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And we'll see you all later. Bye-bye.